Hello and welcome to your fourth tutorial on CSS. Today we'll talk about pseudo classes and selectors. So a pseudo class can be used to style an element based on its state, and its pseudo element can be used to style a specific part of an element. Today we'll talk about both of those, and to start off, let's go into the body tag. Let's write an A tag with the href attribute. And let's write a random website. So let's say I want to go to CNN. We're going to type in http:// and cnn.com, for example. You can write anything that you'd like. And let's write CNN website. And let's close our A tag and save, refresh. Here is our hyperlink. And let's duplicate this and change CNN with, let's say, Google. And change it here also. Save and refresh. And as you can see, I now have my two hyperlinks. So as we can tell, I've at some point visited Google, so that's why it's in purple. And I've never visited CNN, that's why it's in blue. So these are sort of like the default colors. And let's say I want to change these colors. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the internal style sheet, and I'm going to write my style tags in the head section. And let's write a : and link. And let's open our curly brace and let's also close it. And in our curly braces, let's write color as our property and a colon, and let's write crimson. So this is sort of a reddish color, and let's save and refresh. And as we can see, my unvisited website is now the crimson color and it's not its default blue color. So let's also change the visited link color as well. So what we do for that, we type in a and colon visited curly brace, close your curly brace, and in it let's write the color property again, and let's write aquamarine, for example, refresh. And as we can see, my visited website is now aquamarine. So let's add some line breaks over here. So let's move on to another pseudo class. So let's type in a and colon hover curly brace, close your curly brace, and inside of them let's also write the color property, and let's write yellow, for example, and let's save, refresh. So when I hover on my links, the color turns to yellow. And you can change all these colors, you can change them to whatever colors that you prefer. And let's move on to something else. So let's type in the a : active pseudo class and our curly braces, color property, and let's give it the value violet. So let's save, refresh. Now when we hold on to the links, the color will change to violet, as we can see over here and over here as well. So here we have our active links. So this means that when you click on it, it will change to this color and transfer you to your link. So let's go back to our body tag, and in it let's write an input type, and let's write checkbox. Let's save and refresh, and here we go. We now have our checkbox, and as you can see, it's checked, and I can uncheck it. And let's change its properties. Let's say I want it to be a little bit bigger, as it's kind of small. What I'm going to do is in my internal style sheet, I'm going to write input : checked, and my curly brace, and I'm going to write the height and width properties. So for height, I'll give it 50 pixels, and let's do the same thing with width as well. So 50 pixels, and let's close our curly brace, save and refresh. So you might be thinking that nothing happened, but that is not the case. When I click on my checkbox, it will get bigger. So the checked pseudo class in CSS selects elements when they are in the selected state. So this is the not selected state, and this is the selected state. So the same thing will happen if we change checkbox with radio. So let's duplicate and change checkbox with radio, save and refresh. And let's say I want to select my radio button. Here we go. You can see that it got bigger, and so did our checkbox. So if we only want our property to only work on checkbox, in the internal style sheet, in the selector, after input, we're going to write square brackets, and inside we're going to write type, =, single quotation marks, and checkbox. And let's delete this space. So let's save, refresh, And so when I click on my radio button, as you can see, nothing happens. It stays in its same size. And when I click on my checkbox, it gets bigger. So let's add another input type. Let's type in input type equals sign, 2 quotation marks and text. And let's write disabled. Let's duplicate this and let's get rid of disabled. And let's save, refresh. And as you can see, my first input type is disabled, so I can't do anything to it. However, in my second input type, I can type in whatever that I'd like. Let's add in some line breaks. And let's go back to our style sheet. And let's write input, square bracket. And let's write type equals sign, single quotation marks and text. And a colon. And let's write disabled. Open your curly brace. And let's give it a color. So background, and let's say I want it to be spring green, so close your curly brace also, and let's save, refresh, and we can see that my disabled input type is now green and it was gray before. And so let's copy this and paste it here, and let's change this disabled with enabled, save, and let's change the color to yellow, save, and refresh. And we can see that my input type, where it's not disabled, it's enabled, is now yellow. And let's make this more cleaner, and let's add some line breaks again, and let's save, refresh, and here we have our elements. And let's add another pseudo class. Let's add in the focus pseudo class, so let's paste it down here, and let's change disabled with focus. And let's change its color as well, so let's change its color to coral, and let's save and refresh. And so when we click on our second input type, it changes to coral as I've clicked on it, so I'm going to type something in, for example, and when I click somewhere else, it changes back to its original color. So when it's active, so when it's clicked on, it will change to coral. And let's add another pseudo class. So let's change this with active, and let's change the color to red, save, refresh. So when we hold onto our input types, we can see that it changes its color to red. So furthermore, let's move on. Let's go back to our body, and let's add in an input type email. And when we make this, let's also add in line breaks, save, refresh, and you can see that we now have a field for email. And to change its properties, we're going to go to our internal style sheet, and we're going to write input and square brackets again, type, to clarify what type it is, which is email. So we add in single quotation marks and type in email, and let's add in a colon and type in invalid. Let's open our curly brace, and let's write background, and let's say gray, and let's change the semicolon with a colon, and let's get rid of this space as it will just make an error in my code. So let's save and refresh. And so if we write a wrong email, the color of our input will change. And so let's just say we're writing something like this. It's obviously not an email, so it finds it invalid. And let's say I'm using an actual email, so something like, see, as you can see, when I use the @ sign, it immediately changes back to white as it's actually valid. And as you can see, it gives us a warning. So it says, please include an @ in the email address. And it says that our text is missing an @. So let's do the same thing with a different pseudo class. So let's change invalid with valid, and let's change its color to beige, and let's save, refresh. So the valid selector allows us to select input elements that do not contain valid content as determined by its type attribute. So in this case, email. So as you can see, it just immediately changes to my color, which is beige. And if I write something like this, it will change back to gray, so that means it's invalid. However, if I write this email again, it will change to a valid color, which in our case is beige. So let's go back to our body, and let's type in some p tags, and let's just close it. And let's go to our internal style sheet, and let's give our p selector some pseudo classes. So for example, let's type in empty and let's open our curly brace. Type in width, a colon, 300 pixels, and let's give it a height as well. So let's make it a small box, so 20 pixels, and let's give it a background color. So orchid, for example, I'm gonna just type in orchid here, and we need to add semicolons here, and let's close our curly brace. Let's save, refresh. So now as you can see, we have this box and it's orchid and it's completely empty as I don't have anything written in my p tags. So let's find some text and add it to our p tag. So let's just copy something from here and let's paste it here. So my little box disappeared. So basically the empty pseudo class represents any element that has no children. So children can be either elements, element nodes, or text. So let's continue. Let's go to our href tags. Here they are. And let's change the links to our file name. So here is our file name, css4.html. So here I'm going to write css4.html and I'm going to do the same thing here, and let's delete this http stuff. Here we go. And what we're going to do is right over here, just before the last quotation mark, we're going to write a hashtag and let's write middle. And for the second one, we're going to do the same thing, but just change it to bottom. And let's go to the very bottom after our p tag. A lot of line breaks. Let me just make some space here. And here we go. This is just to add scrolling. And just after it, let's write. So the first one is middle. I'm going to write middle. And let's duplicate it and change middle with bottom. And let's add an a tag just after the last BL tag. So type in a and let's write a ID as its attributes. Let's write an equal sign, 2 quotation marks, and let's write middle for this one. Let's close our a tag and let's do the same thing for bottom as well. So a ID equal sign, 2 quotation marks, and let's write bottom, close our a tag. And so when we save and refresh our page, we can see that scrolling is added and we have the names. So we have middle and bottom, and so we don't have enough BR tags, so let me add some more. So we get a longer page. Save and refresh. This is just for you to understand this better. So when I click on the Google website, which is actually just a link to a part of my website, I'll be taken to the bottom of my web page. And if I click on the CNN website, I'll be taken to the middle. So this is actually the middle. So to show you better, I'll add BR tags once more. And let's save and refresh. And let's click on CNN. And as you can see, we were taken to the middle of our web page. So next, let's go back here and let's type in targets as our pseudo class and a curly brace. And let's write border, colon, 2 pixels, solid, so we're doing all of it just at the same time. And let's give it a color, so let's say hashtag D4. So we're using the hexadecimal value. And let's give it a semicolon and type in background, colon, and let's give this color, so it's like a purpley, pinky color. And in the first bunch of these BR tags, so our line breaks, then let's change the a tag with p, and don't forget the closing tag as well. And let's bring this middle to inside of the p tags, and let's do the same exact thing with the bottom part as well. Change a with p and bring this bottom to the p tag, and let's save, refresh. And as we can see, the properties work for the given tag, which is the middle one. And so as you can see, nothing happened to bottom. So if we click on, let me check, it's the Google website. So if I click on the Google website, you can see that the bottom part is also now in a border and it's highlighted. When I click on CNN, same thing happens with the middle part. so it just highlights the area where you want. So let's go to our body tag and let's comment on the whole thing. So angle bracket, exclamation mark, 2 lines. I'll need to close this as well, so we'll close it here. So notice that there is an exclamation mark at the front and there isn't one in the closing tag. And let's write some P tags here. So write P and close your P tag. And let's write some text in between. So text, text, text. For example, you can write anything you want in it. And let's use a pseudo element. So let's go up here. And so let's type in a P, 2 colons. And let's type in after, curly brace. And let's type in content as the property, colon. We're gonna write 2 quotation marks and a line. Let's just quickly bring this. Let's bring this up here so we can work easier. And in this tag, we're gonna write, let's change this to hello world, for example. And in here, let's type in hey, for example. I don't know, you can type in anything that you'd like. And let's also change its color, so red. Let's save and refresh. So let's close it down here. Here we go. And let's work with this. And so let's save this and refresh. And here we go. You can see that I have my hello world here. So basically through this selector, we inserted something after the content of each of the selected elements. So we have one here, which is hello world, and we have the hey parts. And so let's add another P tag. And let's write something like, this is CSS. And when we save and refresh, we can see that we have the same thing. So we have this is CSS and we have this hey parts. In here, let's copy this, paste it, and here let's write before. Let's change the content to something like, I don't know, learning. And if we save and refresh, we can see that we now have this learning just before our 2 P tags. And here is our after pseudo element. So this is our before pseudo element and this is the after pseudo element. So let's comment on this as we don't need it. And let's type in something else. So type in P, 2 colons, and let's write first line letter. So this is used to add a special style to the first letter of my text. So let's add in a curly brace, type in the background, so let's give it a color, and let's say yellow. Close your curly brace, and let's save and refresh. And so as you can see, the first letter of my text is now highlighted and it's in yellow. And we can also write another pseudo element, so type in 2 colons, type in selection, and open your curly brace. Let's give it a color, so pink, let's say, and let's give it a background as well, so background crimson. And let's close our curly brace and let's save and refresh. Our text will now be crimson when we highlight it. And yeah, that was our pseudo classes, and thank you so much for watching.